So I have the privilege to start that interesting session. Well, I will start with a very interesting question. Have you ever dreamt of changing the career that you are currently performing? Um, well, I think that many of us think about it, but only a few make the step. The chances of success are way too limited, and the cost of failure seem very too high. So maybe the solution is something that is not that extreme. So my question is, why not combining different jobs? I'm convinced that by committing to different jobs, you can actually start performing better in all these jobs. Among you, who has a career plan? Raise your hand. Okay, that's interesting. Again, raise your hand those among you that have ever imagined what their ideal career may look like. Okay, that's good. That's good. Well, my parents, they've worked for years for the same kind of organizations in the same kind of roles. Change was very little for them. And I think that multitasking was even less frequent for them. I think that the last few years or the last few months with the pandemic, it has been an experience like no other. We've heard a lot about the new normal, but the new normal at the workplace. But what does the new normal mean, or when it will start, is not clear at all. Today I decided to take it a step further. So we've heard during the past 18 months, we've heard about flexi-time, remote work, and hybrid office. But today I decided to put it and to take it a step further by making the question about what about hybrid professional identities? Why is the new normal becomes committing to different jobs, combining different jobs? And to illustrate that, I will share with you my own experience. So I started my career, and when I started, I didn't have any plan. And I still don't have one today, to be totally transparent with you. I started I think it was in 2010. I started as a teaching and research assistant at the Louvain School of Management. I did a PhD there in internal auditing and risk management. And then in 2016, I decided to join the consulting firm KPMG. I started there as a manager risk consulting. And then in September 2016, so I started, I think, for 3 days. And then I received a call from the Louvain School of Management. Oh, Loïc, we are opening a new course in internal auditing, risk management, internal control. Do you want to take that position? Well, that was exactly what I studied in my PhD. That was exactly the kind of services that I provided to my client at KPMG. So, of course, I seized the opportunity. So that means that in 2016, I started combining two jobs, the one of being a consultant and being an invited professor at the university. Then in August 2019, I decided to leave KPMG and to join that beautiful company, which is Intis. And then at that time, I also started a new role. I became a volunteer mentor in a not-for-profit organization called Team for Job, which helps job seekers find the next job opportunity. Besides that, I have 2 children. I like playing golf. I like spending time with my friends. But the 2 questions I have most often is, how much time do you sleep? Or how can you find the time to combine everything? Because if I had 2 roles and 3 roles, and then all my duties at home becomes quite busy for me. But I think that these two questions don't really get to the heart of my motivations or my reasons why do I want to combine different roles. Well, I will come back to that in a few moments, but well, quite simply, I think that the reasons why I combine different roles today is just because it helps me to grow, and it helps me also to define what is my career plan. And well, I don't know where I will be in 10 years, but I think that I'm opening some doors right now by combining these jobs. And I think that also by combining different careers or different jobs, I'm able to perform much better in all these jobs. And I will try to give you some examples. So as I said, I have 3 roles today: consultant, invited professor, and mentor. Well, I think that consulting helps me in my teaching, because with the, let's say, the hands-on experience that I'm able to accumulate in my life as a consultant, well, I can use some illustrations, some real-life examples, some case studies to my students. Do students study in a business school? And I think that for them, it's pretty much important to make practice beside theory. Otherwise, it's just theory for theory, but without having practical, let's say, application. So I think that consulting helps me in my teaching. The second point is that I think that teaching helps me in performing better as a consultant. And I think that there are a few reasons for that. The first one is I think that teaching is a lot about storytelling. Consulting is a lot about problem solving. But I think that storytelling and problem solving, well, they work hand in hand. Because actually, when we try to propose a solution, a realistic solution to a client, well, we need to be able to articulate the why do we do that, what do we do, and how do we do it. And I think that, well, every time I start a course, I try to have those, let's say, 3 sections. Why am I covering that course? What will I cover? And how does it mean in practice? So having that storytelling at school or at the university also helps me to clarify what is the storytelling that I need to have for my client when offering a solution. So that's number 1. Number 2 is about communication. Well, of course, speaking in front of 100 students, 200 students, sometimes even 300, well, it's not natural to me. I wasn't born to be a teacher. But I think that if I'm able to speak in front of, let's say, more than 100 students with conviction by clarifying key messages, I think that I will have that same level of conviction when engaging in a one-to-one relationship with an executive, that same level of conviction. So in terms of communication, I think that it brings me a lot of being a teacher that I can apply in my consulting role. And I think that, well, combining teaching and consulting also helps me develop other skills, such as, well, the ability to ask good questions, always have the big picture in mind, and all other soft skills that I will explain in a moment. And as I said, there is a third role that I have, which is being a mentor. And I think that when I started my relationship at Team for Job, so the idea basically is to engage in a mentorship program with a stranger during 6 months periods. And I think that there I also can develop some other soft skills, such as empathy, active listening, mentoring, and coaching skills. So I think that all these 3 jobs makes me a better teacher, a better consultant, and a better mentor. But coming back to the question, why am I combining? Because I haven't answered that question yet. Even if for me, what I try to combine is pieces that have convergence. When I started my career as a consultant, when I started my career as a teacher, as a mentor, well, the idea is that there's a link, there's a common thread there. There's a storyline that is the convergence that I'm talking about. So about the reasons why I'm combining these different jobs. Of course, it's not only about money. I see other more valuable reasons for that. The first one is, well, for the reasons I mentioned before, I think that it helps me a lot in terms of developing my skills more effectively. That's the number 1 reason for me. The number 2 reason is, well, by engaging in different, let's say, environments, organizations, universities, associations, I think that I'm able to expand my network and find job opportunities in the end. So that's the second reason. The third reason is, well, I can diversify my income because, and I think that it's pretty relevant nowadays. In finance, they say don't put all your eggs in one basket. I think that it's a very good recommendation also for your career. By committing to different roles, well, I protect myself from losing my main source of revenue. That's a good reason to combine different jobs. And then the last reason that I see is by engaging in different environments, in different networks, I'm able to find out real innovations. What I mean by real innovations is when I engage in different environments, I have some ideas, I have some other peoples that I see, and this brings me truly creative solutions that I can then deploy at my teaching or in my consulting or in my mentoring. So I think that by combining different jobs, I'm able to find something that I wouldn't have had the opportunity to find if I didn't combine these jobs. As a conclusion, I like to stress, let's say, 3 takeaways. And I think that, well, you can consider these key takeaways as being good tips or recommendations based on my experience. First one is, number one is look for convergence so that you can subdivide effectively your skill development. It's almost impossible to find one place where you will be able to develop all your skills. I'm convinced that it's impossible. So why not combining different areas or different jobs where if you take the big picture, you can have all the skills that you develop. And I think that for us as consultants, there are 2 soft skills which are which are more and more important nowadays. The first one is empathy. By empathy, I mean, well, being able to actively listen to a client, to a colleague, to someone, to a counterpart. But it's also the ability to ask good questions, because if you listen actively to someone, then the questions you will address to that person are of a better quality. Agility is it's the second soft skill that to me I find more and more important as for the consultant of 2021. Agility is about being able to challenge your own assumptions and be open to surprise. What you have in mind is not always what will happen at the client side. And I think that by combining teaching, consulting, mentoring, I'm able to develop these 2 soft skills, which are agility and empathy, which are, to my opinion, very important nowadays. That was the first key takeaway. So look for convergence so that you can subdivide your skill development effectively. The second takeaway that I have for you, or practical tip, is well, try to find jobs which are complementary. I mentioned that the 3 jobs that I combined today, well, there's a reason to combine these. Consulting, teaching, well, as I said, storytelling, problem solving, it goes hand in hand. And I think that by complementary, I mean complementary in terms of schedule, complementary also in terms of your assets. I think that we are in a good position when we are consultants. Probably you started your career in consulting because you like the flexibility. You like to know where to work, what to do. Sometimes you can decide what to do. So you have, let's say, the hand on your schedule. And so combining different jobs might be something working, which is easier than in other jobs. So that is number one. Number 2 is complementary in terms of your assets. You all have assets. which are like crown jewels, what you are good at. And if you don't know those assets, well, probably ask someone else and that person will be able to tell you, well, you are good at doing this. What I'd like you to consider is, based on what you capture as information in terms of your assets, well, look for jobs that you can combine without too much effort. Consulting, teaching, well, I try to give advice in terms of risk consulting. I teach in in risk management. So that's basically the same. So complementary is my number 2 takeaway. And finally, my number 3 key takeaway is about be aware for hidden opportunities. And I see that you can do that in 2 ways. First, by multiplying the kind of networks you have, cycles. Well, I have colleagues, I have clients, I have mentees, I have students. So I have different networks of people with whom I interact. These different cycles, well, they can bring me job opportunities. They can bring me other ideas, because I see, when I interact in one environment, I see other things that I see in consulting, for example. And I see that also a way to be open to these hidden opportunities. It's, well, be curious. Have your continuous learning mindset. When engaging in different networks, different environments, well, as I said, you will find some stuff that you haven't considered at all, and maybe behind the door of that opportunity, well, it will bring you something that you can add as a secondary activity to your main activity. But of course, so this is the positive side of combining jobs, but of course there is some negative aspects as well. And well, of course, time today is my enemy. And I have the perfect example today. After a very busy day, busy week, I say yes. I want to take time to share a few perspectives with you. But I think that the problem when you combine different jobs is start to say no somewhere. It's about put your limits, find your balance. And I am pleased that there is someone apparently who excel in doing that, so that can easily combine his professional life, his personal life, because to me that's the real struggle that I have today. It's I have the feeling of every time having someone expecting something from me. That can be a student, that can be a colleague, that can be a client, that can be a mentee. I'm every time on the radar. So Vincent, I think that you have some good advices, good tips, good recommendations that could help me, I hope, to balance much better my professional life and my personal life. So go ahead, Vincent.